My name is Mark Ellison. I farm 700 acres south of Grinnell near the highway. That week, we were hurrying to beat the rain. The co-op in town warned that a storm was coming. I decided to work late to finish harvesting the west side of my cornfield. The field is flat and seems to go on forever. Driving my combine through 12 rows feels like a long hallway. The moon was bright, lighting up the field's edges. The air was cold and dry. I was in my John Deere combine with a 12-row head, auger folded, grain bin half full. The cab was warm and the machine hummed steadily. I had coffee in a thermos and the local AM radio on low. The first time I heard something odd, I thought it was the radio. A faint voice cut through the engine noise saying, "Help me." It sounded weak and airy. I turned down the radio and listened. Nothing. Just corn stalks crunching through the machine and the fan blowing chaff. I figured it might be coyotes yipping from the trees by the south fence. Sometimes the neighbors' calves make noise that carries far. I told myself that's what it was and kept driving. A few passes later, I heard it again. The same words coming from deeper in the field, not the road. I slowed the combine at the end of a row and turned off the cutting head. The quiet made the night feel huge. I opened the cab door and stood on the ladder. A light breeze rustled the corn like dry rain. Moonlight cast a pale glow over the rows. Help. Help. The word was sharp, like someone talking through a cloth. I remembered the missing person posters at Casey's in Grinnell. A girl named Abby Cole, 14, has been missing since September. She lived near Rock Creek State Park, about a mile and a half east of my farm on the gravel road by the old elevator. Her picture showed brown hair and a gray hoodie. I saw it every time I bought diesel or coffee. I climbed down, grabbed my flashlight from the cab, and slipped a wrench into my jacket for safety. I left the combine's flashing lights on to find my way back. I texted my wife, hearing a noise in the west field. Checking it, phone's low. I stepped into the corn rows. Dry leaves scraped my jacket. The ground was hard on top but soft underneath. My boots crunched quietly. After 20 yards, the combine's lights were a faint glow. The rows felt tight, and I moved toward where the voice came from, going by feel. "Help, please." The sound was close now, almost under me. I stopped and shone my flashlight down. It caught a flat gray patch in the dirt, like a rectangle pressed into the ground. A small PVC pipe stuck up at an angle, its end cut clean. A piece of duct tape was tangled in a corn root nearby. I knelt. My heart pounded loudly in my ears. I scraped the dirt with my glove until I hit wood. The soil broke easily like a crust. A plywood sheet was buried under a couple of inches of dirt. I heard a faint breath through the pipe, then a sound that wasn't a word. I pulled out my wrench and pried at the wood's edge. One corner lifted. Warm, musty air escaped. "Hold on," I said, my voice sounding odd in the quiet field. The pipe tapped the wood as I pried harder. I got my fingers under the sheet and lifted it a few inches. My flashlight lit a small space below, no bigger than a dog crate. I saw eyes reflecting, a small mouth trying to speak, a gray hoodie and brown hair stuck to a forehead. It was her. Then I heard a rustle behind me. I froze, holding the plywood. My flashlight shook, catching corn stalks bending where they shouldn't. Another sound, not the wind. Someone was close, their breathing louder than mine. A man stepped out 4 rows away. He was tall, broad-shouldered with a cap pulled low. He held a curved blade, maybe a sickle, glinting in the moonlight. He didn't speak. I let go of the plywood. It fell back with a soft thud. The pipe clinked Ked and a faint sound came from below. Maybe a word. I ran, picking a different row than I came through. Cornstalks snagged my jacket. Leaves hit my face. I aimed for the combine's flashing lights, hoping I was going the right way. Behind me, the corn rustled fast. He was chasing me. I zigzagged along wheel tracks from the irrigation pivot, trying to lose him. My flashlight beam swung wildly, not helping much. The combine's lights pulsed ahead, looking too far away. My boots hit a soft spot, and I sank to my ankles. I pulled free and kept running. I heard the blade swing, slicing a stalk with a sharp snap. He was close enough that I smelled sweat and something sour. I reached the combine and scrambled up the ladder. It felt endless, like a dream where you can't move fast. I slipped, banged my shin, and grabbed the railing. My jacket sleeve tore as I pulled myself into the cab. The door wasn't fully shut when the blade hit it. Metal clanged and the sickle scraped the glass, leaving a white scratch. I slammed the latch shut. For a moment, I saw his eyes through the window. empty like he was just doing a job. I started the combine, lowered the head, and moved forward. I didn't want to hit him, just get away. He stepped back and vanished into the corn, then reappeared, climbing the ladder. He swung again, hitting the side mirror and knocking it off. I pushed the throttle and the combine surged. Corn poured into the head. He dropped off. I swung wide onto the field's edge, lights sweeping the gravel road. The auger hit a branch and rattled. I drove the combine onto County Road F27, bouncing hard like I was late for something. At my farmhouse, I locked the doors and called the Powashic County Sheriff. I gave them the exact location and described everything. The voice, the pipe, the girl. 2 deputies and a state trooper met me at the field around 2:07 a.m. We parked on the road and walked in with flashlights and a dog. It took a while to find the spot again. Cornfields can trick you. The rectangle was there, but the plywood and pipe were gone. The dirt was loose and darker, like someone had disturbed it. The deputies spread out. The dog whined and pulled toward the east fence. We followed a trail to a drainage ditch, then to the neighbor's trees. Footprints in the gravel looked smudged, like someone had swept them away. We checked the hole again. A deputy poked around, but found nothing. No box, just loose dirt and a scrap of gray fabric in the roots. It could have been anything. At 3:40 a.m., a deputy asked if I wanted to state the station. I did. I wrote everything down and gave them my torn jacket. I got home as the sky lightened. The neighbor's grain bin fans started up like any harvest morning. By noon, people in town were talking. Some said Abby's dad had been questioned before and had a temper. Nobody knew where Abby was. That night, I went back to work. The corn doesn't wait. I climbed into the cab, the scratch still on the glass, the mirror gone. I finished the Westfield. Halfway through, the GPS showed my path from the night before. A gray line crossing where the rectangle was. I'd driven over that spot when I first heard her voice. The sheriff's dog kept barking toward the east fence all week. After a big rain, I found a piece of PVC pipe in the ditch near my mailbox. It was clean with a fresh cut. No one found the plywood or Abby. The deputies said to call if I heard anything else. I grew up in a quiet town where nothing much ever happened. My family's house sat on the edge of a wide stretch of farmland. Behind us was a dirt road that ran between tall cornfields, and that road was like my personal playground. I loved biking more than anything when I was a kid. It gave me a kind of freedom. I'd ride for hours after school, feeling the wind on my face, pretending I was racing somewhere important. My parents didn't worry much because the area was safe and you could ride miles without seeing another person, except for the occasional farmer in a truck. The cornfields were both exciting and creepy to me. In the day, the stalks swayed and shone golden when the sun hit them. At night, they turned into walls of black that whispered with the wind. Still, I rode those roads almost every day, and it felt like they belonged to me. One summer evening, when I was around 12, I headed out on my bike. The sun was dropping low and the sky had that orange glow that made everything look warm. I remember the smell of dust and corn, the sound of sockers buzzing. I was pedaling fast, standing on the pedals, pretending I was being chased by something invisible, just like I always did. But then as I leaned into a turn, my front wheel hit some loose gravel. The bike slipped out from under me and I crashed hard onto the dirt. My knees scraped open, stinging instantly, and my palms burned from catching myself. I remember lying there for a second, annoyed more than hurt. I hated falling off my bike, but I'd done it enough times that I just got up, brushed off the dirt, and checked the chain. That's when I felt something shift around me, like the air wasn't the same anymore. At first I thought I heard the rustling of corn stalks moving, not from the wind, but like something or someone was walking inside. I froze, staring at the edge of the field. The corn was taller than me, taller than most adults, and it made it impossible to see more than a foot into it. I listened hard, my scraped knee throbbing, my hands shaking just a little. Then I saw him. A man stepped out from the corn about 30 feet away. I don't know how long he'd been standing in there or if he was watching me before, but the second our eyes met, I knew something was wrong. He wasn't dressed like a farmer. His clothes were dirty, dark pants, a faded shirt, and he looked ragged. His face was pale, almost gray in the fading light, and his eyes looked too wide, like he hadn't slept in days. For a moment, I just stood there gripping my bike, trying to make sense of it. Maybe he was just some guy walking. Maybe he lived nearby. But then he started moving, not walking, running. He broke into a full sprint straight toward me with this heavy, stumbling speed that felt more like an animal than a person. His arms pumped hard, and his face never changed. His eyes locked on me like I was prey. I panicked. I yanked my bike upright, ignoring the chain that had slipped halfway off. My knees screamed in pain as I tried to pedal, but the wheel wouldn't catch right away. Behind me, I could hear his footsteps pounding the dirt. I finally got the chain back into place by sheer luck, slammed my foot down, and the bike lurched forward. I didn't dare look back at first, but I could feel him gaining on me. The dirt road felt endless. The sound of his running, it's something I'll never forget. Heavy, uneven, desperate. I pedal harder than I ever had in my life. Tears welling up in my eyes. My chest burned from breathing so fast. When I finally glanced back, he was still there, still chasing me, maybe only 20 feet away. His face looked twisted, his mouth slightly open, and his eyes were wide in the last bit of sunlight. The road curved, and I cut the corner so sharply, I almost fell again. My house came into view, far at the end of the road, its porch light already on. I screamed for my mom, my voice cracking. That seemed to make him run even faster. I don't know how, but I made it to the driveway. I threw the bike down and sprinted to the porch, yelling the whole time. My dad stepped out, confused, asking what was wrong. I pointed back down the road, breathless, expecting to see the man still running, but there was nothing. The road was empty. The cornfield was still. No footsteps, no figure. My dad grabbed a flashlight and walked a little way down the road, shining the beam into the corn, but he didn't see anyone. My mom checked me over, cleaning my knee while I tried to explain between gasps of air what had happened. They kept saying, maybe I imagined it, maybe it was just a farmer or a neighbor, but I knew what I saw. For days after, I refused to ride my bike near the fields. I barely slept, and every time I looked out my window at night, I thought I'd see him standing at the edge of the corn. My parents eventually gave in and told some neighbors about it. They said nobody had seen any strangers around. One old farmer even laughed and said, "That road plays tricks on kids. Shadows move funny out there." But I know it wasn't a trick. I can still picture him, the way his feet hit the dirt, the way he never stopped looking right at me. Whoever he was, whatever he wanted, I was lucky my bike worked when it did. And the strangest part, when my dad walked back from the road that night, he said he noticed footprints in the dust. They started at the edge of the corn and ran a few dozen yards down the road before stopping, like the man had just vanished into thin air. It's been years since then, but whenever I ride past a cornfield, I still get that same feeling in my chest. The feeling of being watched, of something waiting just out of sight. I never found out who that man was or why he came running at me from the cornfield that night. And maybe it's better that way, because sometimes the scariest part of a memory isn't knowing what happened. It's knowing it could happen again. My name is John Harland. I'm 68 years old, living on a 200-acre farm just outside Mitchell, South Dakota. Corn mostly stretching flat and endless under the wide sky. My wife Mary died in April 2019, heart failure. According to the coroner, she was 62. Since then, it's been me and the land. Days blend together, tending crops, fixing equipment, watching the horizon swallow the sun. The quiet suits me, or it used to. The farm was our life. Mary loved it here. The way the wind moved through the fields like a living thing. After she passed, I'd sit on the porch with coffee, staring at the corn rows, trying to feel her presence. Our son David, 35, lives in Sioux Falls. He calls weekly, mostly about money. He's been struggling. Bad investments, creditors him. I'd send checks when I could, but the farm's not what it used to be. It began to walk the field's edge, checking irrigation lines or signs of pests. The light turned golden, softening the world. One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, I saw something. A figure maybe 50 yards into the corn, moving slowly between the rows, tall, slender, in a pale dress. The way it drifted reminded me of Mary, how she'd wander the garden, lost in thought. I froze, squinting. My eyes aren't what they used to be. Could have been a trick of the light. Shadows playing in the stalks. I called out, "Anyone there?" I stepped into the field, boots sinking into the soil, leaves brushing my arms. By the time I reached the spot, it was gone, just bent stalks maybe from wind or deer. I laughed it off, an old man seeing things. The next night it happened again. Same time, closer to the house. The figure moved with purpose, weaving through the corn. I caught a glimpse, long hair, a familiar sway. My chest tightened. Mary, impossible. I pushed through the rows, stalk snapping against my jacket. "Mary," I called louder than I meant. Nothing, just dirt and a faint trail like someone had passed through. I stood there, breathing hard, the field silent except for the rustle of leaves. I didn't tell David when he visited that weekend. He brought groceries, sat on the porch, and rambled about work. His eyes kept darting to the fields like he was looking for something. "You holding up okay, Dad? All alone out here?" he asked. I nodded, said I was fine. He left on Sunday morning. That night, the figure returned clearer now, her outline, her hair catching the fading light. I grabbed a flashlight and chased her deeper than before. The corn closed in, disorienting like a maze with no exit. I found nothing but a scarf. Mary's blue with tiny flowers snagged on a stalk. Days blurred. The sightings became regular, always at twilight. I'd find things, her old gardening glove half buried, a hairpin glinting in the dirt. Each discovery felt like a message, but from who? Grief, I thought. My mind is unraveling. I stopped walking the fields after dark, stayed inside, and locked the doors. But the pull was strong, like the land was calling me out. One afternoon, desperate for answers, I searched the house. In Mary's dresser, I found her journal. Recent entries mentioned feeling sick, stomach cramps, dizziness, which she hadn't told me about. David brought tea today, so thoughtful. Tea? He always made her tea when he visited. Some herbal blend he swore by. My stomach turned. I remembered the autopsy. Traces of something odd in her system dismissed as inconclusive. Heart failure, they said. Natural causes. I dug deeper. In the attic among dusty boxes, I found bank statements, withdrawals I hadn't authorized. Thousands moved to David's account. Then a life insurance policy on Mary, the beneficiary, switched to him in 2022. My hands shook. Debt collectors had been calling him for months. Had he been desperate enough to? I couldn't finish the thought. I called him, voice steady but cold. "What did you do to your mother?" Silence stretched, then a forced laugh. "Dad, you're scaring me. You need sleep." His tone was off, a tremor beneath it. He hung up. That night, the figure appeared earlier, closer, beckoning me into the field. I grabbed a lantern, followed. The corn parted like a curtain, leading me to a clearing. Someone had cut the stalks down, unnatural and deliberate. In the center, a vial half empty, label scratched off. I pocketed it. Heart-pounding rat poison, I'd bet. Slow, subtle, mimics organ failure. Thunder growled in the distance. A storm was brewing, typical for South Dakota in late summer. Wind picked up, bending the corn. I heard footsteps, heavy, deliberate. I turned. David stood at the clearing's edge, rain starting to fall, his face pale in the lantern's glow. "Dad," he said, voice low. "You're out here again." He stepped closer, rain streaking his jacket. In his hand, a rope coiled tight. "People will understand," he said. "You've been seeing things, talking about Mom. They'll call it grief." His eyes were empty, calculating. Suicide staged in the fields. The perfect story. Lightning cracked, the storm breaking over us. Rain stung my face as he lunged. I swung the lantern, catching his wrist. The rope fell. We struggled, slipping in the mud, corn stalks whipping around us like claws. He was stronger than I expected, fueled by something dark, guilt maybe, or desperation. "She was sick anyway," he hissed, "and you're losing it. This is mercy." I broke free, stumbled into the rows. The field became a labyrinth, rain and thunder swallowing sound. I hid, crouching low, watching him stalk through the stalks, calling my name. Time stretched, minutes or hours I couldn't tell. Then faint sirens. I'd called the sheriff that morning, left a vague message about suspicions. The vial, the money. They must have come to check. David vanished into the storm. They found the vial, the bank records, and the insurance papers. He was arrested in Sioux Falls days later, charged with murder and attempted murder. The poison matched traces in Mary's autopsy. Case closed, they said, but it's not. I still see her at twilight, drifting through the corn. Not grief, not madness, something else. Her scarf appeared again last week, folded neatly on the porch. I burned it, but the fields feel alive, watching. Was it all day hope? The corn sways, whispering secrets it won't share. Some nights I hear footsteps outside, but no one's there. Or maybe they are waiting for the right moment.